Welcome to myprojectbazaar.com. Let us see the project title. The title of the project is Mining Sequence Data and Time Series Data. Let us see the abstract of the project. The abstract: since in ancient time the sequential data and time series remains an important problem in the data mining process. Despite progress in other related fields, how efficiently classify the predict the trends of these data is still an open problem. A time series is a sequence of data points measured by typically at successive points in the time space at uniform time intervals. Time series analysis comprises methods for analyzing time series data in order to extract meaningful statistics and other characteristics of data. The time series forecasting is the use of model to predict future value based on previously observed values, while regression analysis is often employed in such a way to the best theories that the current values of one more independent time series affect the current value of another time series. This type of analysis of the time series is not called the time series analysis, which focuses on comparing values of a single time series at different data points at time. Time series data have a natural temporal ordering. This makes time series analysis distinct from other common data analysis problems in which there is no natural ordering of the observations. Time series analysis is also called distinct from the spatial data analysis, where the observations typically relate to geographical locations. Next, the sequential data. Records in the sequence database are deposited from a wide range of sources, from individual researchers to large genome sequence centers. As a result, the sequences themselves and especially the biological annotations attached to the sequence may vary in quality. There is much redundancy as multiple labs may submit numerous sequence data is identical or nearly identical to other in the databases. Many annotations of the sequence are based on the laboratory experiments but on the results of the sequence similarity such as for previously annotated sequence. The major problem is the noise in the time series data. Many time series used for the predictions are contaminated by noise, making it difficult to accurate short-term and long-term predictions. Although signal processing techniques such as wavelet analysis and filtering can be applied to remove the noise, often introduce lags in the filtering data. These lags reduce the accuracy of the predictions. Let us see the flow of the project. At first we should start the program. Here the dataset loading process is the initial process. The dataset must be here the text format. The dataset contains the data for the mining process. The dataset contains the information of the weather forecasting details of various sensors. The data collected from various sensors is included here, and the date and time of the calculated temperature is also mentioned here. We should extract the dataset. So here the extraction process refers to the storing of the data into the backend process. That is, here the backend used is the SQL server. Here we use the SQL server database for the backend support, because in the dataset is in the format of text format. We cannot perform the search operations that much efficiently in the text format, so only we are using the database as a backend support to perform the sufficient and efficient search process. And then we should load the dataset into the forms. Then we should get the measurement of the total dataset. Here the total dataset represents all the data. Here the total data measurement is performed using the distinct values from the dataset. So the distinct values must be generated to perform this total measurement. Then we should get the time series data from the database. Here we should mine the time series data from the distinct time series column. Here also the distinct time series data only got from the database, so we can get the corresponding weather forecasting details for this time series data, and we can make the measurement for the each data in the time series column. Then we should mine the sequential data. So here the sequential data, in the sense the data which is in a continuous manner, should be mined from the database. Then the sequential data also get the distinct values from the database. Then we should get the
corresponding weather forecasting detail for the each sequential data, then only we can calculate the measurement for the each data. Finally, we should combine both the time series data and sequential data. Using this mined data, we can perform the weather forecasting detail getting process for this corresponding time series and sequential data. Let us see the demo of the project. In the first one, we should load the dataset from the folder. So to do that, we first choose the data. Here the data is in the text format. New data is the dataset for the current process. We should select that and click open. When we click open, the dataset in the file has been shown here. The total content has been shown here. Then we should click the next button. When we click the load dataset, here the dataset has been loaded successfully. In this form, we are going to perform the extraction process. So when we click the extract dataset, the data extraction is going to perform. Here the data extraction in the sense the data in the text file are to store in the database, that is in the backend support. Here the SQL server is used. Then when the process is completed, we can get the extracted successfully message. We should click the view data to view the data. So this data is stored in the database has been shown here. Then we should click the dataset information. Here the raw datasets information has been shown. The dataset name, type, rows and columns, total data. Here the rows mentions the number of rows in the dataset. Then the columns represents the number of columns in the dataset. The total data represents the corresponding total data in the dataset. Here the rows represents the number of records in the dataset. Then we should click the next button. In the next button, in this form we click the load dataset. Here the load dataset shows the all the data in the dataset. Then we should click the view measurement. Here the measurement has been shown. The total count represents the number of records in the dataset, and the distinct values represents the distinct temperature values in the dataset. Then the measurement is calculated from the total count and the distinct values. Then we should click the show distinct weather details. The distinct weather details has been shown here. Then when we click the distinctive value, its corresponding measurement value has been shown here. Then we should click the next button. Here the sequential data mining is performed. We should click the get sequence data. Here the sequential data has been shown. Then when we click the measurement, here the measurement for the sequential data has been shown. The total data is as usual the whole data set count. Then the sequential data is the count of the sequential data in the records. Then the measurement represents the division of the total data and the sequential data. Then when we click the view temperature, it will show the temperature value for the corresponding sequential data. When we click the sequential data, it will show the corresponding temperature value and its measurement value. Then we should click the next button. Here the time series data mining is performed. We should click the get time series. Here the time series data is mined from the dataset. When we click the measurement, it will show the measurement of the time series data. As usually, here the total data set represents the total data. Then the time series data is represented here. Then corresponding measurement is shown here. Then when we click the view temperature, the corresponding temperature for the time series data is shown here. Then the corresponding measurement value also displayed here. We should click the next button. Here in this form, we should extract both the time series data and sequential data. We can get the corresponding temperature for the time series data and the sequential data. We should click the load time series data. Here the time series data has been loaded. Then when we click the load sequential data, here the sequential data also loaded. Then when we click the get temperature, the temperature for the corresponding time series data and the sequential data is shown. Thank you.